Okay, I know what's coming up isn't the best video quality. You're going to have to bear with me on some of these early videos. I was filming with my phone, in many cases without a microphone, but there was no going back and getting any do-overs. So to start, I really wanted to show everyone some of the steps that I took in prepping the stand and the tank and getting them ready to go for the installation. Unfortunately, I did not take any videos, but here are some of the pics that I took along the way. So first, I taped off the back of the aquarium and painted it black. I really think it helps to make the fish and the plants pop and also hide the cords and the pipes at the same time without being distracted. Next, I painted the stand and put on new hardware. The stand was originally black and was a little bit beat up, and so I put on new trim all the way around it and painted it. I was told it needed to match the living room, and I figured I'd better listen up. You can see here that I also put some black foam. Well, you can kind of see that I put some black foam on the top of the stand. It's hard to see in the video, but I put that there to help prevent the tank from possibly having any stress points or any areas where they could cause the tank to crack. Once the tank was in place, I filled it with water and let it sit just to make sure it didn't leak. And finally, you can see our cat Sketch standing here checking things out. And coming up, you'll get to meet our other cat, Sam. Now, on to the videos. We have started our substrate. So right now, just a layer of pea gravel, kind of angling up towards the back. We have some bags of basically potting soil, fertilizers, topsoil. It's not really potting soil, it's more topsoil that we placed in there for some nutrients for the plants when they start to grow their roots. And the next step is to cover that with kind of a layer of pea gravel, just a small thin one. And then we're going to use some of this product, Samurai soil, and we are going to kind of spread that throughout and then put a small layer, get started with some sand, maybe put a little bit of that in the sand and then top everything off with sand. And we worked on the substrate a little bit. So we had our gravel down, then we put a thin layer of sand down, and then we topped it with that soil fertilizer mix. And then we started the top layer of sand. So before I finished that and finished it all off, I just thought I would come and show everyone what it looks like. And it's going to look like just sand when it's all done. And even here on the side, you can't really see the layer of that nutrient-based soil. It's just some little bit of gravel and sand. So I kind of moved it back on purpose so you couldn't see it. But there we are. And the next time we come back, we will be doing hardscape. Back again. And this time I'm super excited because we are getting started on the actual hardscape that's going in this aquarium. I did some unboxings of some product that are going to go on this thing, which I'm also super excited about. But today we also get to do the actual hardscape, putting together the hardscape for this guy. So I also want to show you kind of what we have going on here. Obviously the cats are excited because it's something different laying on the floor that's not normally laying on the floor. But we have all sorts of just a few little different kinds of rocks and stones and pebbles for detail work when we're all kind of getting close to the end. And then I've got some smaller to medium sized guys and several different awesome pieces of wood. I've actually already kind of dry fitted them, but that was with no substrate in the tank. Now there's a substrate that angles up towards the back, so we're going to end up losing some of our height. So it'll be interesting to try to figure out how to make it work. And then all the way up to some larger stones and some pretty big stones to actually kind of anchor everything down and make it look cool. So I'm excited for all of that. And let's get going. piece is awesome because it's kind of hard to see in the video, but maybe back here. There's a band that runs right through it. That's this bright red wood, and my cats are being naughty and need to get down. Let's try this again. So there's a band, a bright red band that runs through this, and when it gets red, so there's a bright red band that runs down through this, and when it gets red, so there's a bright red band that runs through this, and when it gets wet, it turns bright, brilliant red. I'm super excited for that. Okay, so I wanted to end this episode with a little sneak peek of what's to come, along with just a general discussion on what I did for filtration and the lighting and the CO2. So let's take a look. Okay, so first off, I just wanted to point out that I used not just one Fluval FX6 canister, but two Fluval FX6 canisters, and not one Fluval UV clarifier for the FX line of filters, but two UV clarifiers. Now, the CO2, I did something a little interesting. I did kind of your DIY, kind of upper end DIY home kit, as well as a large CO2 bottle with a normal regulator like you would find on a more expensive system. This first one here I got off of that wonderful store where you can buy all sorts of stuff online. And it was probably, I think the whole system was about $250. I've had it running on the aquarium now for, I think, probably 2 months now. We're that far in. And it works really, really well. The CO2, it generates a fair amount of CO2, but it does use baking soda and citric acid in order to create the CO2 that comes out of the CO2 regulator. And you can see the bubble counter right on here. That all came with it. It all works. It's a great little system. The one downside I would say is, especially with a tank the size of this bad boy, you do have to frequently, probably about once, depending on how much you're actually running the CO2, anywhere between a week and a half to 2 weeks, every week and a half to 2 weeks, you have to put more of the baking soda, citric acid, and water inside of there in order for it to generate CO2. So other than that, I am actually very happy with it. I just bought a bunch of bulk chemicals so that I could put in there, so I don't have to keep buying them little by little, but it's time to buy them again already, and it's been a couple of months. So I would say that's the downside to this unit. Everything else seems to be pretty good. You probably wouldn't have to run as much CO2 if you had a smaller aquarium, so this would be a great option for a smaller aquarium. Now, the other canister, or the other CO2 that I used, it's downstairs in the basement.
Before we head to the basement, let's talk about the problem of the traditional CO2 setup.
That being that the canister is too tall to fit underneath of the aquarium in the stand. That's when I realized the cold air return into the basement is right behind the aquarium. All I had to do was take the screws off the vent, pull back the vent, and then I could run the CO2 tubing and the power cord right through the cold air return down into the basement. And here we are in the basement, and you can see the cylinder right here is on a shelf, and that is the solution to the problem. It is in a perfect place where I can work on it, I can use it, I can see what's going on, and it also runs the power cord and the CO2 hose right up into the cold air return or right up behind the tank. Perfect solution to an issue, to a problem. There's always a solution to the problem. You just got to think a little bit outside of the box. So that was the solution to my CO2 problem. For the lighting, I chose to go with the Fluval Plant 3.0 LED lights. I used 2 of them, as you can see here in the video. I absolutely love these lights because they are slim, sleek, super light, super adjustable. So far, everything about them has been absolutely fantastic. And you can also purchase these little fancy hanging brackets, and they're super easy because they just snap on. You know, there's no screws, there's no tools, there's no anything. It just snaps on, and then it mounts to the ceiling via a drywall anchor and a screw, or just a screw if you're going into a stud. We'll zoom in here and give you a little closer shot there. So basically, it just, you put the drywall anchor in where you want it to mount, screw that little adapter piece up into there, and then you run your cable up through it. You just pinch it down, and you can pull that cable to whatever length you need. I wrapped it around, bent it over, and zip tied it off. I did initially have the wires hanging, but it looks kind of sloppy, and the cats thought they were toys, so they were chewing the heck out of it, so I had to snip them off and zip tie them down, and they look super nice and sleek, and you really can't even tell that they're zip tied down when you're looking at the tank. You just don't even see it. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. Oh, hey everyone. Glad to see you there. Just over here working on the temporary location for our pond while we're getting our deck rebuilt. Let's go over here to the shade where it's a little bit cooler and you can see my face a little better. There we go. That's a little bit nicer. So we are now wrapping up episode 1 of the 265 Dream Aquarium. And it's been a wonderful experience for me. Some of the cuts and the clips maybe aren't as fantastic and as great as I would like them to be, but hopefully coming up in episode 2, it'll be much better. It'll look much better, sound a little bit better. We'll have a mic on all of the recordings and not just some of them. And I hope to see everyone there. I got to get back to this monstrosity. So I'll see you in the next episode.